This link is for 4th grade, going along with the story Let It Snow. If you go ahead and turn your hardcover Treasures textbook to page 376 and 377, this is where we're going to go ahead and be following along with the story. But first off, I'd like to go over the vocabulary words that we're going to encounter in this unit. And of course, these vocabulary words will be very helpful when completing page 103 in the practice book. In fact, if you have your practice book with you right now, it would be recommended that you go ahead and have that out with you as I go ahead and read the definitions and see if you can find any of the answers as I read these. Number 1, we have technique. A technique is a certain way to do something that requires skill. The artist's technique is obvious in his painting. Foolishness. Foolishness means being unwise. Some think the idea of time travel is foolishness. Inspire. If you inspire people, it means you encourage them to act. Better grades inspire me to do my homework. Evaporate. To evaporate is to disappear, usually as a gas or a vapor. In science class, we saw the boiling water evaporate into the air. Microscope. A microscope makes things appear larger. We looked at a leaf under the microscope to see its veins. Magnify. To magnify something means to make it bigger. We had to magnify the cell several times in order to see it. Negatives. Negatives of a film are the parts that show light areas as dark and dark areas as light. We laughed at the funny colors on the negatives. And blizzard. A blizzard is a severe snowstorm. Snowplows cannot keep roads clear during a blizzard. Okay, now what I'd like you to actually do is direct your attention to page 376 and 377 in that Treasures textbook of yours. Of course, our vocabulary strategy that we're going to talk a little bit about before we begin is dictionary. Now, finding multiple meaning words. Sometimes when you look in the dictionary, there are multiple definitions for the word. So trying to figure out which one fits is when you have to use those context clues around those words or around the word in the story. Now, multiple meaning words have more than one meaning. So using a dictionary, you can find, for example, multiple meanings for the word negatives. Now, negatives, of course, is film. Negatives of a film are the parts that show light areas and dark areas as light, but negatives are also not positive comments. So if you look negatives up in the dictionary, you would find that there are multiple meanings. With that being said, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this story. Actually, following along with me, I'll read through it. It's Let It Snow, and it's by Cynthia Robbie. Do you have a technique for catching snowflakes? Some people run in circles trying to catch them. Others stand perfectly still with their tongues sticking out. It might look like foolishness, but it's fun. Crystals to flakes. A snowflake shape is formed long before it lands on Earth. First, an ice crystal forms around a tiny piece of dirt in a cloud. Now it's a snow crystal. The crystal shape depends on the temperature of the cloud. Finally, as the crystals fall from the cloud, they stick together to form snowflakes. Each snowflake is made up of 2 to 200 separate snow crystals. Studying snowflakes. Snow crystals form into one of 7 shapes. You probably know the stellar crystal best. These star-shaped crystals are not the most common, but they're the kind that inspire the work of many artists. How can you study snowflakes before they evaporate and disappear? Well, first go outside when it's not windy and about 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Second, bring a piece of dark cloth with you. This will make it easier to see the crystals. And finally, you will need to use a microscope to magnify the crystal to take a good look at it. Wilson Snowflake Bentley learned how to make the crystals show up in photographs. He cut away the dark spots of the negatives. Dangerous snowflakes. If conditions are just right, beautiful snowflakes can turn into a dangerous storm called a blizzard. In blizzards, strong winds can blow the snow around. This causes whiteout conditions, making it very difficult to see where you're going. Always pay attention to the weather. That way you can safely catch and study all the snowflakes you'd like. All right, with that being said, we're going to talk a little bit about what our comprehension strategy is going to be. And that comprehension strategy that we're going to work on is summarizing. Now, when you summarize what you read, you include only the important details. To decide which details are important, you need to think about the main idea of the selection. Then you need to ask yourself, do these details support the main idea? Now, a main idea web can help you decide which details are important. We're going to actually reread this selection, and then we're going to summarize the main idea and the important details that support it and use one of those main idea webs, except my web is going to look a little bit different just because I can't make perfect webs in an Excel spreadsheet. But I do have a detail to go along with this main idea here. All right. Now, you should summarize passages of selections as you read. You should be summarizing as you're reading. By identifying the main ideas in this way, you will be able to distinguish between the essential and the non-essential information, which means the important and the not important information while you read. There may be many details that support a main idea. These make the writing more interesting and enjoyable, but it is not necessary to remember them all. Okay? With that being said, let's direct our attention back to page 376. We're going to go ahead and reread through this story, and we're going to see if we can find out what the main idea may be. Okay? Do you have a technique for catching snowflakes? Some people run in circles trying to catch them. Others stand perfectly still, tongues sticking out. It might look like foolishness, but it is fun. Now I'm going to stop right there real quick. In the first paragraph, the author asks if the reader has a special way to catch snowflakes. Now I see that she mentions two different ways that people try to catch snowflakes. And then she says that any method is fun. Using these details, I can summarize right now that the main idea of this particular paragraph is about catching snowflakes. But right now we want to find the main idea of the entire story, so let's continue to read. Crystals to flakes. A snowflake shape is formed long before it lands on Earth. First, an ice crystal forms around a tiny piece of a dirt in a cloud. Now it's a snow crystal. The crystal's shape depends on the temperature of the cloud. Finally, as the crystals fall from the clouds, they stick together to form snowflakes. Each snowflake is made up of 2 to 200 separate snow crystals. Now, so far we've read three paragraphs, and they're all dealing with snow crystals, dealing with snowflakes, okay? So in general, the main idea is just about snowflakes, and of course the details that we would read, we would fill into this main idea web, if that's the right one to choose. Right now, I like to actually just focus on what the main idea for crystals to flakes might be. What do you think the main idea for crystals to flakes, those two paragraphs, what do you think that main idea was? Well, let's identify details about the formation of snowflakes. I know that the formations of snowflakes, if you read through that, talks about ice crystals forming around dirt specks. It talks about the temperature. Does it talk about the temperature? No, it doesn't talk about the temperature yet. So let's continue to read. This is where I'm getting tricky. I'm not going to let you know about the temperature part until we continue. But we do know that the crystals stick together to form snowflakes. Okay, so with that being said, so far I'm realizing that there are various conditions that affect snowflake formation. So I'm going to put that there. Various conditions affect snowflake formations. Okay? With that being said, I do know that ice crystals form around dirt specks. And I also know that crystals stick together to form snowflakes. To find that last detail, and of course that detail is going to be about temperature because I gave you that clue, let's continue to find that final detail of what condition helps snowflakes form. Now, snow crystals form into 7 different shapes. You probably know the stellar crystal the best. These star-shaped crystals aren't the most common, but they're the kind that inspire the work of most artists. How can you study snowflakes before they evaporate? Well, first go outside when it's not windy and about 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Second, bring a piece of dark cloth with you. This will make it easier to see the snow crystals. Finally, you'll need a microscope to magnify the crystals to get a good look at it. Wilson Snowflake Bentley learned how to make the crystals show up in the photographs. He cut away the dark parts of the negatives. Dangerous snowflakes. If conditions are just right, beautiful snowflakes can get a dangerous storm called blizzard. In blizzards, strong winds can blow the snow around, and this causes whiteout conditions, making it very difficult to see where you're going. Always pay attention to the weather. That way, you can safely catch and study all the snowflakes you would like. All right. Did you see that talk about temperature? Even if you look back at 376, this could probably help you as well. And that second paragraph telling you a little bit about what the crystal shape depends on. We could say that temperature determines the crystal shape. Okay. Now, with that being said, you guys just focused on the main idea and the details of the story. You are actually going to see main idea in detail as well tomorrow when you do practice book page 104. All you need to remember is that when you identify the main idea, you're able to summarize the work, okay? There may be many main ideas that or many details that support a main idea, but remember, you're going to need to find the ones that support the most of the main idea as you're reading. With that being said, that goes on and concludes this link. If you have further questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact me.